I'd like to call to order this meeting of Susquehanna Township Board of Commissioners, regular meeting. I would note that the board did meet in executive session to discuss matters of real estate and personnel. All commissioners are here with the exception of Commissioners Rabarchek and Napper, who are both excused. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence, and call upon Commissioner Falona to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic that where it stands, one country, indivisible, and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. It's a beautiful summer night. We'll begin with petitions, complaints, suggestions from citizens. Does anybody wish to address the board tonight? If you could stand, please, and state your name and where you live.
My name is Jeffrey Smith.
And we try to limit our comments to 3 minutes, if you could do that.
It won't take that long.
Okay.
Okay, my name is Jeffrey Smith. I live on 34th Street there in the Progress area. And actually, I want to address problems we have with pen waste. But first, I was talking about something I saw today. A school bus stopped on Walnut Street, like heading towards Colonial Parkway, a little bit before Progress Avenue. And then there's a bunch of traffic at the light in Progress Avenue. When the school bus got its flashing lights on. When the light turned green, everybody just went right down past them, like 6 cars, just went right down, paid no attention to the lights on the bus, which is horrible. I think maybe they should have somebody that, and then it kind of just said the school's closed today, but maybe you need to have the police watch some buses or something, bus stops or something. I mean, that would be terrible to have a kid run across the street and get killed. But my main reason for coming here tonight was we've been having so many problems with pen waste, it ain't even funny. Like this past weekend, Memorial Day, they were supposed to pick up our trash a day late, which would have been Wednesday, normally Tuesday. Well, they didn't pick it up. So, and the funny thing is, they picked up the trash on half of 34th Street, all of Sunnyside, and Spring Street, but they didn't come the rest of the way down 34th Street to get our trash. So I called them, they said they put in a work order, so we left the trash out the curb, figuring they were gonna come and pick it up, who knows when. The next day I did see a pen waste truck on Progress Avenue, but he didn't come back and pick up our trash. And it sat there until the following trash pickup day. And that's not the first time it happened, it's about the 3rd or 4th time that that's happened. And it used to be, they had a problem with they wouldn't pick up the recycle. They said the truck couldn't get down the street. So the township put no parking signs on the other side of the street. So it does get a little bit narrow there at the end of 34th, like if you're heading out towards Walnut. It does get a little narrow there. So, but the funny thing is, the recycle truck couldn't get down the street, but the regular trash truck could. So, I mean, I just think pen waste is a terrible company. Like I said, one time they didn't get any of the trash from 34th Street, Sunnyside, Spring. They didn't get any of it, and they didn't get it till the next week. But you know, they expect you to pay your bill in full and on time, or you'll have to pay a late payment. It's just I hate that company. They're worse than. I used to hate Verizon more than anybody, but now it's pen waste. That's about all I got to say.
Well, at least you share the love around. That's nice.
Yeah.
Did you talk to township staff at all?
Yes, I talked to
Okay.
Catherine from the zone, or which maintenance, property maintenance.
Yep. It's good for them to know so that they can
And
log on the complaints.
Well, we had another complaint because somebody moved out the next door and left trash all over their yard and stuff, and we complained to her, and then she had them take care of it.
Okay.
It took a while, but they took care of it.
Okay.
Okay? But yeah, pen waste.
I know.
So anyways, I yield my time to the gentleman sitting next to me.
Do you want to speak as well?
Yes, he does.
All right. If you can, again, state your name and where you
My
live.
name is Richard Crone. I live on 34th Street also. Thursdays and Fridays, there's people that don't want to go to the intersection and wait for the light. So they'll turn on Spring Street. They come around that corner and they go flying down 34th Street. I mean, one of them scared me to death almost today. And I mean, they just go flying through there like it's a racetrack. We got a bunch of little kids on that street, a lot of little kids. And these people don't pay any attention. I'd like to see something done to slow them down. And like maybe some over on the other side of Walnut Street, those people over there have speed bumps. We don't have nothing. And even when both sides are parked, those people come flying down through there. If they sideswipe one of our cars, they'll just keep right on going. But I'm concerned about the kids. We got like from 3 years old up into the 13, 14 years old. A lot of kids there. And also on Oliver Street, which is like an alley there, that's a one-way street. But those people, there's a lot of people that come down there, and I want to go out 34th Street like I'm going up to Lowe's or something like that, and I want to turn at the light. All of a sudden, here comes a car full barrel right at me. It's a one-way street. Nobody does nothing about it. So I just wondered to please do something about them speeding on 34th Street because of the children that we have there. And also that Oliver Street where they go one way, where that old Pizza Hut used to be. And that was my main concern, especially for the kids run. I ran out and tried to get that girl's license number, but she was flying too fast. But I'd like to see something done with that. And so would all our neighbors. We've all talked. We have all gotten together and talked about this. And it's kind of ridiculous that people would fly down that street as fast as they go. So if you can do something about that, we'd really be grateful.
Well, unfortunately, our chief's not here tonight. He has a commitment out of town. But if you could give your name and phone number to our manager, Dave Probolka, he will certainly get word on to the chief to look into that problem. It sounds like a serious issue.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Well, I don't see anybody. Mr. Norford, the 3-minute man.
As most of you know, it takes me 3 minutes to introduce myself. Richard Norford, 1304 Laurel Den Circle. I'm here to speak for the capital area of Greenbelt and to thank the township and the Board of Supervisors for just a spectacular Tour de Belt, which is the only fundraiser that the Greenbelt has. It was held this year at Hack and finished at Commonwealth Charter Academy. And we had a wonderful team. We had a team of 12 riders, consisted of staff, one elected commissioner. I don't want to call anybody else not being here this year, but there was the czar of bicycling, Commissioner Napier was there. And we had a lot of residents that joined us this year, and they've encouraged other residents. So we had 12 people in our team. I just got to tell you, we weren't the best looking team. We weren't the ugliest. We probably weren't the fastest team, but we doggone sure were the loudest team. I led it, and I never had any trouble knowing that our team was back there. And I'm not calling out any commissioner that's not here. So, but you know what else we did? We also had, and Betsy's here, we had staff and volunteers that hosted one of the rest stops. There's only 3 rest stops. One was done by REI, one by Susquehanna Township, and Susquehanna Township did one at Reservoir Park. And it was well run, well staffed. Everybody felt very comfortable there. They did a good job of keeping the bicycle off the road. So thank you very much for that. There were just a couple of other little things that happened that I want to take an opportunity to thank a couple of people. We discovered just a few days before the Tour de Belt that there's been a washout on the trail on the Harrisburg State Hospital grounds where the township has an easement that goes through that the Greenbelt uses. And it took one phone call and one request, and Nate and Travis got a team out there and fixed that. probably not fixed permanently, but with 900 bicycle riders going through, plus the people doing it, I just wanted to call out that those guys really did a super job. Doug and our new township manager, both excellent bicycle riders, one better than the other, participated in our team. But thank you, Dave and Doug, for helping us with our team. And last but not least, this afternoon at 3 o'clock, the first time I appeared before this board, I was complaining about the Andrea Avenue as it's really pronounced, which connects the Pin Hill subdivision, which connects the Greenbelt with Progress Avenue, was paved this week. It's a 6-foot paving, and of course, somebody's here taking credit for that, but okay, it absolutely looks wonderful. There's still a little bit of work to do. So on behalf of the Capital Area Greenbelt, which you're probably going to hear a little bit more about tonight, but thank you very much. And did I stay within 3 minutes?
Hell no. Thank you, Dick, for your, spirit to core. You really did get us on the stick, literally, a couple of years ago with Township more fully participating in all things Greenbelt. So thank you for your leadership on that. Anybody else wish to address the board tonight? Okay. Hearing none. Moving on, approval of minutes, May 25th, our Commissioners' Workshop. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
So, Engel moved, and, okay. You got that, Kathy? Brad and Justin. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Reports of committees, buildings and grounds. Commissioner Rothrock.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a brief report. Our building is still being renovated. There have been some supply chain issues for things like doorknobs and windows and light fixtures, I think, various things. But we have a new substantial completion target date of June 30th, as declared by me. That concludes my report.
Here, here. Is there a second? How do you enforce that? Yeah. Perchance a dreamer, what's a heaven for? Budget and Finance, Commissioner Fleming.
Briefly, Mr. President, I don't really have a report, but we will schedule a meeting for sometime in July to take a look at quarter two and assess where we are after the second quarter of the year. So look forward to that, but no report as of now.
All right, thank you very much. Public Works, Commissioner Napper's not here. Do you have anything, Carl? All right, thank you. Health and Sanitation, Commissioner Barczyk's not here. Everything, Carl? All right, thank you. Admin and Personnel, Commissioner Napper is not here. Do you have anything, Commissioner Fleming?
No report, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Police, Commissioner Engel.
No report.
Thank you. Fire and EMS, Commissioner Hisaro. Thank you. Recreation, Commissioner Falona.
Yeah, no report.
Thank you. Must be a good game on or something tonight. Planning and Zoning, Commissioner Rothrock.
Thank you, Mr. President. Apparently, I'm the only person with reports today. There was a planning commission meeting on the 23rd of May. There were a number of items on the agenda. One was Russell Drive, Lot 2, which is in Ward 4. It was a final land development plan for the purpose of developing a 78-unit multifamily residential development. That plan was recommended for approval by the Board of Commissioners. The next one was Stray Winds Farms, Phase 8, which is in Ward 9, I believe. That's a final subdivision plan for 40 single-family homes as part of a previously approved plan. And that plan was recommended for approval by the Board of Commissioners, and I believe it's on our agenda later tonight. The next was Townsend Margaret's Grove, Phase 3B, which is in the 2nd Ward. And it was a final subdivision plan for an additional 28 townhomes as part of a previously approved plan and is the final phase of that development. That was tabled for clarification because the Planning Commission wanted to learn more about the proposed pedestrian easement that was supposed to be put in Phase 3A. The next item was Chick-fil-A in Ward 5. It's a final development plan for demolishing a bank building on Union Deposit and building a 4,700 square foot fast food restaurant, pretty big restaurant. The proposal was presented solely for the comment of the Planning Commission, and they had comments. No action was taken, but we believe those comments will be considered, and we'll hear back from those folks pretty soon. The Zoning Hearing Board meeting was held on the 6th of June. There was one item, Susquehanna Incorporated, 3465 North 6th Street. This was a continuance from a previous Zoning Hearing Board meeting. They were requesting a special exception to allow a junkyard on less than 5 acres, and that exception was denied. We also had a draft zoning ordinance and a saldo meeting today, and I think we're getting closer to a presentation of the final drafts, but we still have a little ways to go. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Bids and agreements. We're going to begin with two hearings involving two ordinances. So we'll slip out of the regular meeting and into the first of two hearings at this point. Opening up the hearing, and this is on the proposed ordinance 22-2, which by way of public hearing and adoption of an ordinance of Susquehanna Township, Dauphin County, accepting the public rights-of-way on Paxton Church Road and Shut Mill Road as described in Exhibit A. Mr. Volka.
Yes,
Has this been properly advertised?
It has indeed, Mr. President. Thank you. And this is in coordination with HRG, who has been preparing over the last several months to put this project out to bid. The intention of the project is to rehabilitate and reconstruct Paxton Church Road right in the approximate vicinity of the limits of work in the approximate vicinity of Shut Mill. In order to complete the project, there is a need to accept right-of-way that had been dedicated but unaccepted by the township for two recorded subdivision plans, one of Mr. Lester Hoffer, which was approved on July 13th, 1972, and the second of Beverly A. and Kenneth L. Hawk, which was approved on September 9th, 1992. So each of these subdivision plans identify right-of-way to be conveyed to the township, which had never formally been accepted by instrument, which is what's being proposed in the ordinance this evening. Provided with the agenda is a copy of that ordinance, and again, the right-of-way would be located on both Paxton Church Road and Shut Mill Road.
Okay. Does staff have any, or does the Board of Commissioners have any questions? Any comments? Solicitor, do you have anything you'd like to add to this? Okay. Members of the public, anybody wish to address the board on this topic? All right, hearing none, this hearing is closed. Let's have another hearing. This hearing is for proposed ordinance 22-3, which would amend Chapter 5, Code Enforcement, Part 3, International Property Maintenance Code, Section 5-301, Adoption of International Property Maintenance Code, and Section 5-303, Adoption of Future Editions. Ms. Logan, do you want to address this?
Sure, thank you, Mr. President. We're providing for public safety and a high quality of life for our residents. It's one of the most important obligations that we as a township must meet. In advancing this mission, it's critical that we use all the tools at our disposal. As neighborhoods and infrastructure age, this task becomes increasingly difficult and imperative that the latest standards of property and building maintenance are applied to our ordinances. This evening, we're asking the board to conduct a public hearing on a proposed ordinance amendment to achieve two objectives. First, the amendment would adopt the 2021 International Property Maintenance Code, which is the most current version of the publication. We currently are following the 2018 code. And this will enable our enforcement officials to apply the latest standards to ensuring properties are well maintained and the proper measures of enforcement and compliance are delivered to address violations. Second, it will modify the language in the ordinance to enable the Board of Commissioners to enact future editions of the Property Maintenance Code by resolution as opposed to ordinance. In your agenda is a draft copy of the ordinance advertised for public hearing, as well as the 2021 International Property Maintenance Code. Changes from the prior version are illustrated by the vertical gray lines in the margins. And just in addition, while the proposed amendments will help us move the ball forward in our efforts to address quality of life issues as they emerge in the township, other measures may be considered for future enactment. The township is not currently utilizing the current uniform construction codes, so we would be presenting that to the board in the future to adopt, so we're on the current codes for those, as well as looking at a consideration for a rental housing program to address some of the issues we have as single-family neighborhoods are being transitioned from property owned to rental housing. So this is something that we will further explore with the board in the future, but at this time we're just looking for a decision on the a review of the uniform property maintenance code. No decision at this time, but if you have any amendments, we would like to take those into consideration and provide it to the township so we can take action on utilizing the new property maintenance code.
Okay, so not proposed is adoption of the ordinance as advertised?
Correct. So this evening, all that's been advertised is a public hearing. If there are any additions, changes, revisions to the property maintenance code as presented, the 2021 version, and we are able to modify those as a municipality, we can take those comments, we can refine them. If they're substantive, we should probably have another public hearing to provide any residents an opportunity to come out and provide testimony. But if it's acceptable as presented, which is what we're recommending, we can present this ordinance for adoption on June 23rd.
Okay. And this hearing was properly advertised, and we had proof of publication, I assume?
We do indeed.
Files?
And both ordinances, the one and the prior item as well as this, have been reviewed by Solicitor Madden.
Okay. Do you have anything you'd like to add, Solicitor?
Just briefly, for the benefit of the board, the reason that this particular ordinance is getting updated is because ordinances that are adopting outside regulatory standards on an ongoing basis, there's been case law significantly developed over the past 10, 15 years that hold those types of ordinances unconstitutional. It's an unlawful delegation of power. Essentially, the thought behind it and the court's reasoning is that if you pass an ordinance that says we adopt, for example, the Uniform Construction Code on an ongoing basis, there's no real board review of what the construction code says on an ongoing basis. So rewriting the ordinance to allow for adoption of updated versions or additions kind of imputes, correct,
yeah.
Kind of imputes that the board is seeing these changes happen in real time and not expecting residents and developers, et cetera, to adhere to an evolving set of regulations without any board knowledge of how those evolution or how that evolution has occurred. So that's the purpose of this update.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions by members of the board on this topic? Anybody from the public have anything they wish to address on this topic? All right, so we will consider this at a future meeting. Would it be the workshop meeting or more likely in July?
Right, so I could present this at the first regular meeting in July.
Okay.
And then we'll have that teed up for adoption. The other ordinance, the previous public hearing, was advertised for this evening for both public hearing and adoption at the discretion of the board.
We'll get back to that right after we finish this. Okay, hearing no other comments, we'll close this hearing And moving back one notch in the agenda, while we still have that with us, this is the Paxton Church Road Shut Mill properties is listed on Exhibit A. That's been the subject of a public hearing carried out tonight. Manager Provolka described the ins and outs of it, and the chair at this point would entertain a motion to move forward with the ordinance as presented. Moved by Commissioner Hisro, seconded by Commissioner Pine. Rothrock. Okay, Rothrock. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ordinance 22-2 is in the books. All right. Next on the agenda is Resolution 22R14, which would adopt the shade tree removal assistance policy as described in Exhibit A and made part of the resolution. Mr. Provolka.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The Board of Commissioners has had an opportunity to review the draft language of the Shade Tree Removal Assistance Program policy during the May 25th workshop. Just a reminder that the program, once established, would provide financial assistance to certain eligible property owners. This is an income, kind of a means-tested program where they've been obligated by our ordinance to remove dead or dying or hazardous trees that are located in the public right-of-way or in the tree lawn, as we often describe it. Recommended changes from that discussion are reflected in the document and appended to the resolution this evening. These include removal of the language which directs the Public Works Director to determine whether those trees would be removed in-house as opposed to contracted out. We have modified the income eligibility provisions as directed by the board. And we have also just made some kind of cleanup general language. Otherwise, substantively, it remains as presented on May 25th. Shade Tree Commission has already reviewed the document and is recommending approval, as is staff this evening.
All right, there's a motion on the floor from Commissioner Engel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fleming. Question, Mr. Pine.
Thank you, Mr. President. So just to reiterate, we have removed the idea that township staff could be involved with some tree removal completely?
Well, so we've taken it out of the policy. I think in practicality or in its administration, if there's a tree that is a very small caliper that doesn't propose a threat to, or pose a threat to any property or anything like that, it might be something that the Public Works Director and I, kind of coordinate on, and if we're able to remove it, we might do the work in-house. But I think, as a matter of course, I understand the solicitor's concern from the May 25th discussion and agree with it, and so our first order would be to contract that service out. And we'd ensure that the contractor is properly qualified, is indemnified, and carries the proper liability insurance in order to resolve any potential unforeseen issues. But yeah, that language has been removed. If there are opportunities to maybe do some of the work in-house, we could certainly consider those, but primarily we would be contracting that service.
Just in a case perhaps where a storm might take a tree down, if possible, the township crews can still remove.
Right, I think so. Yeah, if it's just a dead limb or something like that, or a hazard tree that can be resolved, we might be able to do that work in-house in certain limiting circumstances, and we definitely wouldn't put any of our employees that are not properly trained or qualified, or where there might be any liability concerns. We would contract that service.
Because I know in the past we have, large emergency situations, a bad storm, hurricane, whatever. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Questions? Mr. Rothrock?
Yeah, this is maybe being picky or something. Under general criteria, I don't have it in front of me either. So under general criteria number 5, there are 3 conditions that are listed as qualifying for the program. And they're listed 1, 2, 3, and the third one says or. And looking at the list, it almost looked like something where you would want somebody to meet all three of those. So I'm just wondering whether that little or should be changed to and. I'm not sure.
I could see, I could foresee a circumstance where a street tree or shade tree may be destroyed in a storm and may pose an immediate hazard, or a hazard that perhaps isn't immediate, we would still want to obligate the property owner to. I think or is appropriate in this context, but it may be a qualifier that it might be kind of an and/or situation, but I wouldn't want to say, you know, if there was a situation where a tree were destroyed by events not under their control. Excuse me, I should note that this is a replacement clause, so this isn't to remove the tree. Excuse me, sorry, I'm misinterpreting that provision. So if a tree was destroyed and removed or had to be removed in order to qualify to be able to use any of these funds to replace that tree, it would have to be one of these three circumstances.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to double check that, that's all. Thank you.
And this being a pilot program, we're going to work out a lot of the kinks. What if somebody has a tree that they don't like, and it's in the right of way, and they meet the financial criteria, but it's not a tree that we require them to take down, but they would go.
So I think that actually speaks to what Commissioner Rothbach was looking at with number 5. They have to have, in order for the grant funds to be provided, they have to have a permit, and the shade tree has to approve it. And they don't approve anything that's not, for reasons that are just because someone doesn't like it. They have to have evidence that it's dead or dying or diseased.
Okay. Well, in our discussion 2 weeks ago, somebody was talking about, required by the township or the shade tree commission to be removed, as opposed to something that needs removed and is not under an order from the township. So if somebody just goes to you and says, look, I got this tree, I don't like it.
The Shade Tree Commission does not approve permits for removal of those trees.
For aesthetic reasons?
For aesthetic reasons, yep.
Okay. They just do V cuts?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? And we'll be getting notice of this out to the public by way of, obviously, newsletter, website, social media. It's going to be interesting. See what the reception is.
Also, when, they get an application in or there is a dead tree that's been cited and because of health issues, they can't afford to get it removed, or for whatever reason, then that's when the Shade Tree Commission would inform them of this potential grant process. So generally, it would be for only people during that permitting process.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions before so it's been moved and seconded. There are comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is Resolution 22R15, which would authorize the President, Secretary to execute the Dauphin County Local Shared Grant Agreement number 2022-32. Mr. Babolka?
Thank you, Mr. President. The board has with the agenda a copy of the resolution which would authorize the President and the Secretary to execute the grant agreement with Dauphin County. This is for the gaming grant, the local share municipal grant program. This was the grant cycle that was awarded in 2021. The proceeds of the grant have been used to rehabilitate Edgemont and Stabler Parks. The designs were approved just last meeting by the Board of Commissioners, and there was also acquisition of several new radios for the Public Safety Department. The grant agreement is appended to the resolution.
Is there a motion? Hissaro and Valona, in that order. Nice guy should finish last, Fred, sorry. Any discussion? Questions, comments? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is Resolution 22R16, amending the 457 Deferred Compensation Plan document. Mr. Pribolka.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just as kind of an administrative matter, the township offers employees an optional 457 deferred compensation plan. It is entirely employee funded, meaning there's no match from the township. But because of the plan structure, there are several trustees which are listed as administrators of the plan. The recommendation is to adopt the resolution to amend the plan document and remove the former township manager, David Kratzer, and replace with David Pribolka, myself, as trustee of the plan.
What? Second. Moved by Commissioner Rothrock, seconded by Commissioner Flona. Again, whoa. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is Straywind Farms Phase 8. Is this the last phase, Betsy?
This is the last
Thank
phase,
you.
correct? So this is a final subdivision plan for the purpose of building 40 single-family homes as part of the previously approved preliminary plan. The project is a neighborhood design development located in the R2 medium-density residential district. Triple Crown is proposing, phases 1 through 6 are located in Lower Paxton Township. The project's located east of Crumbs Mill Road and north of Paxton Church Road. Phase 8 will complete the Straywinds Farm development. Cul-de-sacs for Citation Drive and Antonella Drive will be completed as part of the phase. Public water and sewer are provided, and stormwater is managed with a basin and individual on-lot best management practices located on 5 lots. The Planning Commission reviewed the plan at their meeting on May 23rd and recommends approval of the plan with the following conditions. All outstanding comments provided by township staff, the township engineer, and the Dauphin County Planning Commission are addressed. All recreation fees are paid prior to the release of plans for recording. All agreements must be provided for review and approval by the Board of Commissioners prior to the release of plans and documents for recording. And changes to any design details or model residential design from the preliminary plan of Straywind Farms Phases 7 and 8 must be reviewed by the Design Review Committee prior to the issuance of building permits.
Okay.
Staff is recommending to approval based off of the Planning Commission's.
Okay. Is there a motion on the waivers that were outlined by Ms. Logan? 1 through 4.
The waivers were approved originally with the preliminary plan, so this is just for conditions of approval for the plan.
So, Commissioner Pine?
Move to approve subject to the conditions indicated. Second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Rothrock. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, reports. Mr. Pribolka, do you have anything?
Thank you. My report's in your packet. I would just add that number 4 in the report, which pertains to the intersection of 6th Street and Lincoln Road. Just to note, we did meet on site a couple of weeks ago with Mr. Norford, who's in attendance this evening, as well as Doug Knaus and Rob Martin. And just to kind of talk through some of the site concerns out there, this was the location of a fatal accident just about maybe 8 months ago, and some potential guide rail and other safety enhancements that were proposed for that segment of road. I did, since writing this report, hear back from a District 8 representative that they conducted the guide rail study to determine whether warrants exist to extend the guide rail on Lingelstown Road, which is a state-owned highway. Unfortunately, per the PennDOT response that we received, that did not meet warrants. So I have reached out to that same individual with District 8 and requested perhaps an opportunity to meet on site and maybe talk through some of the road geometry and some of the more specific safety concerns that are present there, and see if that individual may have some ideas on some other approaches that we may take. So more to come on that. And I guess one item of note that's not written in my report is that this morning, Public Safety Director Rob Martin and I attended a rally at the Capitol steps in support of House Bill 606, which pertains to the local police use of radar for speed control. that's all. I'll answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Community Economic Development, Logan, anything?
You have my report in your packet. The only thing I would note is that just looking at our numbers in comparison to last year's, we have probably issued 3 times as many permits already
Wow.
in this first quarter than we did last year at this time.
Wow.
So it's got a lot going on.
There's a lot going on in that report.
There is a lot going
It
on.
really is.
Yeah.
Anything on the Public Works front? Nate?
I'll make it quick. Attached to the report, you'll see pictures and a thank you letter for the purchase of the equipment. The roadside mower, we finally got all the licensing and insurance for it. It started going out last week and it's working great. Right now, we're concentrating on getting as much road patching as we can. We're trying to do long stretches of roadway. We've got one up 6th Street, Paxton Church Road, minus the section that's going to be getting replaced and repaired. And we're trying to do long stretches. We do have one new employee starting this Thursday. And we did get a couple more good qualified candidates that applied, so we're going to be doing some more interviews this upcoming week. So, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Nate. You're doing a great job for both us and the authority, so appreciate it. Yep. Engineering, do we have anything, Alex?
You all should have my report in your packets. In lieu of going down each item, I'll just kind of pick one item of note under Boyd Park Phase 2, which is currently out to bid. We received numerous requests to extend the bid date from numerous contractors. So in discussion with Doug, we decided to push the bid date out till June 30th, 2022. So other than that, I'll entertain any questions you may have.
And June, what?
30th.
Of 22, and what was that for?
The Boyd Park Phase 2 bid opening.
Oh, I see, good. When did we see that being completed?
Substantial completion is the first week in December.
Very good, thank you. Solicitor Madden? No report. Okay. School Board, Commissioner Pine?
Yes, Mr. President. The noise you heard today throughout the township was the last day of school for students today, Thursday, June 9. And commencement exercises for the class of 22 is tomorrow at Roscoe Warner Field, the high school stadium. In the event of inclement weather, they'll take place in the auditorium of the Central Dauphin Middle School at 4600 Locust Lane. The previous meeting, there was a budget considered but not approved. So at the next meeting, it will be brought up again. The original proposal called for a 3% real estate tax increase. The next proposal is likely to be less than that before approved. The school district has prepared a procurement timeline regarding the construction of a new Roscoe Warner Field concession stand. Bids will be received in July. Recommendations for awards are expected in August. Construction to begin in September and concluded by April, May of 2023. And finally, there were some personnel changes at the administrative level mentioned. The assistant superintendent, Dr. Richard Caskey, has resigned, and the Holtzman principal, Jackie Rapinski, also resigned. And they will have several administrative transfers and position changes as a result. That's about it.
Thank you. Authority, do you have anything, Dave?
I can just quickly review the authority's action items from the June 7th meeting.
Sure.
Just really two of note. One was to approve the subsidy agreement for the $10 million bank loan that was approved by ordinance of the Board of Commissioners just about a month ago. And secondly, the authority board discussed, actually I guess three items of note. Secondly, the authority board discussed a request for support for the Paxton Parkway Restoration Project from the Capital Area Greenbelt Association, who is currently in the process of a design for an approximate $1.3 million stream restoration and parkway restoration project in a segment of the Greenbelt, which includes, is primarily situated in Susquehanna Township and partly in Paxton Borough as well. They authorized a letter of support and committed to fund a proportional share of the authority's obligation should the Paxton Creek Cooperative, which is our pollutant reduction plan, joint cooperative, agree to a cash match of that project. So right now, the Greenbelt Association is pursuing grant funding. The Board of Commissioners will entertain a request for a letter of support later this evening, and that's what this particular action item pertained to that the authority took. So, and then lastly, a intergovernmental cooperation agreement was approved by the authority board for a rate study for Capital Region Water, which includes a number of municipal partners as well as authorities. That is not on the agenda this evening for Board of Commissioners approval, but will be on for June 23rd. There's no cash obligation or cash commitment that the township is in for. That's entirely being funded at approximately 37% of the total cost by the Susquehanna Township Authority out of its sanitary sewer rates. I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? All right. Thank you for that, David. Shade Tree, anything else, Commissioner Pine?
No, but I should at least express the thanks to the commissioners for action on the Shade Tree pilot program. They would want to say thank you to all.
Thank you. And nothing on communications?
No.
Good, okay. Human Relations Commission, Commissioner Hisro.
Yes, no formal report tonight other than to state that the commission is planning a meeting on June 15th, and so expect a report at the next meeting.
Very good, thank you. Parks and Rec, Commissioner Falone.
Yeah, just to advise the public that the summer day and playground programs are starting to fill up. So if you're still, if anyone's still interested, please do sign up. Also, we'll have our first movie in the park this season on Friday, the 17th, June 17th. We'll be showing Encanto, and movie starts at dusk. That'll be all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Old business, Montrose Street truck restriction study. Mr. Proboka.
Thank you, Mr. President. So Public Safety Director Martin, who would normally introduce these, has sent his apologies for not being able to present this evening, but I'll do my best, and if there's any specific questions, I'd be happy to forward them on if I can't respond. So with your agenda this evening, you have a memorandum from Eric Strump of HRG, where he summarizes the results and recommendations of the Montrose Street truck restriction study. As provided by the Pennsylvania Motor Vehicle Code, we have to meet certain conditions in order to justify the establishment of size and class restrictions on local streets. There was a conclusion from that study that additional restrictions be placed, and they're summarized in that memorandum. If we are to move forward with those would be done in the form of an ordinance. Staff is recommending that the board this evening discuss the results of the study, and if interested in proceeding, we can authorize the public hearing for the ordinance at the workshop meeting on June 23rd. Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to advertise with intent to adopt the ordinance referenced by Mr. Proboka?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioners Engel and seconded by Commissioner Pine. Any comments or questions from the board? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. New business. On the consent agenda, we have a number of items, they being statement of bills paid, building renovation project with the pay application number 5 of $84,105.31. Permanent appointment of Patrol Officer Jenna Bretz to the Susquehanna Township Police Department. Appointment of Amber Green as Financial Assistant HR Clerk. We have the privilege of meeting Amber in executive session. Appointment of Howard Hurst to the Recreation Advisory Committee. with the term expiring December 31st, 2023. And finally, financial security reduction number 1 for Lingelstown Road Site Office Building in the amount of $162,195. Alex or Dave, regarding that site reduction, what is Lingelstown Road Office Building? Which project is that?
So it's the rehab center right there on Cumberland, I believe it's Cumberland Ave, right? The private road, kind of across the street, sits down low.
That narrow
Right.
pizza pie shape?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so that's coming along. Is it
It's
occupied?
It is occupied, has been for quite some time now. The site is generally complete. There are some essentially cleanup items specific to the basin and the culvert and stabilization and such. So there's a little bit of work left to be done there.
Thank you for that. Mr. Pine.
Move to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Pine, seconded by Commissioner Fleming. Any questions or comments on any one of these 7 items or so? 6 items.
I would like just to speak on behalf of the appointment of Howard Hirsch. He's actually a neighbor of mine. I moved for the recommendation to serve for the 3rd Ward. I think Howard will make an excellent committee member for the RAC, and excited that he was willing to take on this responsibility.
Very good. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on the consent agenda. Next up, letter of support, Capital Area Greenbelt, Paxton Parkway Stream Restoration Project Phase 3. Mr. Mouse is not here. Do you want to take that, Dave?
Yes, I will. I'll do my best to fill his shoes, but no promises. So as I alluded to a moment ago in the authority report, the Capital Area Greenbelt Association is developing a scope of work for the stream restoration project in the Paxton Parkway. The limits are mostly located in Susquehanna Township with a small segment in Paxton Borough. And the request before the Board of Commissioners this evening is for a letter of support. There's the specific request from Michael Shaw, who is the president of the Capital Area Greenbelt Association. The letter is a little bit out of date because they've expanded the limits of the scope of work just slightly since initially this letter was submitted to my attention. But they are in the process of actively pursuing grant funding from the Department of Environmental Protection, and were in the letter seeking $30,000 of local support to help augment the local match required for that grant project. As I noted earlier, the project is being jointly considered for inclusion in the pollutant reduction plan, which is part of our MS4 permit requirements, and the cooperative had met recently to discuss a potential match from that organization. If approved, the Susquehanna Township Authority's responsibility for that project would be approximately 27% of the local match. So for example, if they committed $100,000, the Township Authority would pay $27,000 of the cooperative's commitment. And in exchange for that, the authority and the township, as an MS4 permit holder, would capitalize on the pollutant reduction credits that might be eligible as part of that project, which is estimated to be just north of 600,000 pounds of sediment reduction, which is very significant. At this time, I think the project is still being developed. So staff's recommendation, which is included in the recommended motion, will be to author a letter of support. I've drafted one for your review this evening, but to delay perhaps the commitment of local match until that scope of work has become a little bit more fully developed. I understand there's a need to be time sensitive with respect to the grant funding cycles, but there's still being developed this scope of work, and it's still being refined. And given that the authority board may commit a financial match as well, it's my recommendation that you support the project and then perhaps consider a local match commitment at a later date. I believe Mr. Norford is still here this evening over there in case there's any questions for the Greenbelt Association representative.
Dick, did you have anything that you'd like to address proactively? I believe the deadline for the grant submission is the 24th. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Is the deadline for the grant submission June 24?
And that's the reason there is some expediency.
Okay.
And we certainly appreciate the authority's support, but we're $3,000 short. So I think maybe what I'm standing up for is I'm asking for $3,000 to get us to the $30,000 that we need. If you're familiar with the Greenbelt at all, this is a 120-year-old section of the Greenbelt that the sewage lines, and I don't think they were ever televised. I don't think we ever got, we don't know exactly what's in there. David mentioned that it's mostly in Susquehanna Township. I measured it today. It's 483 feet of this 1.2 mile section is actually in Paxton. But the runoff that's going into Paxton is actually coming from an apartment complex in our township. So the Dauphin County Commissioners have supported us. I don't know where they supported us financially. I guess that famous gaming grants that everybody seems to use. The money that was raised for Tour de Belt that I spoke about earlier, $30,000 of that the Greenbelt will serve as our association's match. So this project started 8 years ago. I was on board the Greenbelt at that time, and the estimated cost for what was going to be a 3-phase project was $2.2 million. With so many things changing, going up, we estimate that this will be a 4-phase project. This will be the second third of the trail reconstruction. The first phase was to stop the creek from eating away the whole trail that was there. We had to back it on that. So we started out behind the 8 ball a little bit. So thank you for your consideration of supporting it. But I would like consideration for the $3,000 commitment along with the letter of support so we can supposedly match the add that to the $27,000 from the authority, which will get us to the $30,000. And I'll be glad to answer any other questions that the commissioners may have.
Yeah. Well, the authority did commit financially, as I recall, right?
The authority made a commitment to its proportional share of the cooperative agreement. That's correct. The cooperative is still determining there.
As of yet, because of ambiguity on the total cost, right?
Well,
am I correct in that, Dave?
Well, the board has not made a determination yet. I think my recommendation would be, and I certainly don't mean to opine on the merits of the request. It's because that the cost estimate and scope of work is still being developed that I thought it may be prudent for the letter of support to come with a consideration of a financial commitment to follow. But if Mr. Norford is suggesting that the board of commissioners augment the commitment from the authority to get to that total $30,000, and that's what their request is, then it's discretion of the board to approve.
We did mention that it would be 2023 when we would need money for construction to start in 2024.
So the total amount you're looking for is $3,000 or $30,000?
30,000, but we are anticipating that the Paxton watershed collaboration will agree to $100,000, of which 27% would be Susquehanna Township's part. So I'm looking to, we certainly, I don't want to kill the possibility of getting a letter of support. Thank you for that, but I would like the commitment for the $3,000 so I can go back to the board and say, because we are pitching, we're watching the clock very closely on this because of the deadline, and it's really critical to keep this budget moving, so.
All right, so you're talking about in this letter injecting the number 3,000. 3,000, is that what you're talking
At
about?
this point, yes, sir.
Okay, what do you think, Mr. Walker?
I have no concern with that. I think if the request from the Greenbelt Association has been refined and they're comfortable that that's the commitment that they need in order to meet their cash match obligation for the grant, then if the board is supportive of it, I'd be happy to endorse that as well.
Well, I would still move the $3,000 assistance grant with them, so we could take a look if there's any additional facts later that would require additional, we can always consider that for tonight to so move the $3,000 assistance. With the authorities, $27,000, and they get a $30,000 request to be looking for. And the letter of support, obviously.
Right. Well, we already have a motion on the table, so that would need to be withdrawn. Right?
I think you had a recommendation, but no motion.
I don't have anything else.
We didn't?
No motion on
Okay, so there is now a motion by Commissioner Hisro, seconded by Commissioner Pine. Yeah, I mean, we're here for the Greenbelt, obviously, yeah. And it's good to know that we can budget it for next year, and it's good to know that it's only 3,000 at this juncture. And you're a wizard at getting grants and public support, and, you know, just making stacks of cash appear. So with that said, I think that's fine with me. Does anybody else wish to discuss this or ask questions? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're a salesman.
Mr. President, Commissioner.
Mr. Wonderful.
I just want to show you one thing before I get off the floor. This was the shirt that we wore, which really was absolutely beautiful. And on the back, anyone that, well, no one ever got behind me. I was too slow. If somebody ever did. So thanks again, David. And Betsy. And Doug.
Thanks again, Dave. Okay. Next up is approval of park signage design rendering.
I'm playing the role again of the Director of Park and Recreation. With your agenda this evening, there are several renderings attached that illustrate the proposed new park signage. So part of the purpose or the goal of this project is to have a uniform standard of park signage throughout the township. And so the Recreation Advisory Committee has considered a number of different renderings, and those have been, again, provided with your agenda. They are recommending that the Board of Commissioners endorse option A, which is a post-mounted sign that I think looks very nice. It fits our color standards, as well as provides the township logo and then the name of the park towards the bottom of the sign. So if the rendering is approved as recommended, the intent would be to, over the course of several years, replace our existing park signage with this standardized sign, beginning with the Boyd Park project and Christian McNaughton Park. And in both of those situations, or both of those park development plans, there are private contributions that are being used to offset the cost of the signage. So the approximate cost of the signs is still being determined because there would have to be the specifications developed for each. But the rendering is what's really being asked to be approved by the board this evening. And then kind of in conjunction with that, along with your agenda, is a sign rendering, design of a sign for the municipal building. which again is consistent with our design guidelines. It has the township logo that has the font that meets our standards. And then there's also a digital display board that, if approved, would be constructed as part of the building renovation project, and that can be used to display messages that can change from time to time. So I guess that's really all that I have to introduce this with. If there's any questions, I can do my best to answer them as far as the process that went along or the considerations of the Rec Advisory Committee in formulating their recommendation. Thank you.
Yeah, well, there's a recommendation. So let's do a motion and second and get it on the table. Is there a motion? Commissioner Engel moves.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Rothrock. Commissioner Pine.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we're talking about monument option A and post and panels option A?
Oh, yeah, excellent. Just post and panels, option A.
Okay, thank you.
But as I read this, recommending monument option A for the township building? There's two option A's.
Well, the monument option for the township building is on page 2 of the 4-page attachment with the agenda. It is a monument sign with a stone veneer, so it's not a post-mounted sign. It's a little bit more, it's a little bit, I guess, beefier than what would be proposed for the parks, but it's kind of ancillary to the park signage. It would be, this is the only rendering that's been developed for the township sign. So it's really just kind of presented so you have a chance to look at it. If you have any concerns about it, we can make any modifications to it. But for the park signage, it's really just that post and panel option A.
Okay, good. Thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions, comments from the board?
Yeah, I think in developing the plan for Boyd Park, if I remember correctly, there was well, one of the features of that park is going to be a new fence in certain sections that are going to be held in place by stone piers, I think. And there was a sketch of a sign for that park that has stone in it that is consistent with the fencing that was designed. So I'm a little concerned that, and I like the plan, the post sign, I do, but we had sort of a motif going there in the design which involves stone, and I'm wondering if we can use the post sign if you want to be consistent with the other parks, but somehow incorporate some stone in that sign as was originally designed.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. They're just a little bit earlier this afternoon, so it's too late to get it in the agenda packet. I did receive a rendering from RPM Signs and Lighting for the signage at Boyd Park, and it does include, and I'll send this around, of course, but I can also, if you'd like, I can pass my tablet around since I just got it a little bit later this afternoon. It does incorporate the stone post, I guess the stone concept. So you have a little bit of a different, a little more consistent with the theme of Boyd Park when we're going for that. So it brings the sign rendering in, but it also would be a little bit more of a involved design for the actual park signage with that stone veneer worked into it. Does that look okay?
Yeah, I understand we want to try to be consistent with our signage at the parks, but we are kind of go with a stone fencing motif there, and I think it would tie together to have that sign.
Okay.
I think our sponsors would appreciate it. They like the fancy stuff.
Any other questions or comments on the signs? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is authorization to submit a grant application for the the Dauphin County Bridge Bundling Program, Municipal Round 2 for the Cone Road Bridge Rehab Project.
All right.
Probolka, Township Manager.
Thank you. I can put my other hat back on now. I feel like Dick Norford. This, kind of came to me via a letter just that I received in my office about a week or so ago. This is a grant announcement from Dauphin County for its bridge bundling program. This is the second municipal round. Just late last year, HRG completed its routine bridge inspection report for county municipalities, primarily looking at bridges that spanned over 20 feet, but also with the intention of identifying any major concerns or structural deficiencies that may be identified for improvement, restoration, or superstructure replacement. There was one bridge in Susquehanna Township that was rated in poor condition due to scouring. We have effected some repairs to that scouring, but that is the bridge on Cone Road over Paxton Creek. There has been a subsequent inspection since the report was released, and the concerns that were voiced by the engineer with HRG were that the bridge appears to be deteriorating perhaps more rapidly than initially thought. So it's not anything that is structurally unsafe. It doesn't pose a current public safety concern, but it is certainly one that is on their watch list. With this program, the township might have the ability to capitalize on just under $1 million of local and federal funding to offset the approximate $1.2 million replacement for that bridge. If approved, the local share for the township, which would be budgeted in the 2025 budget cycle, would be about $303,000. The way the grant program works is it's kind of done on a reimbursement basis, so the county would pay for the cost of the replacement and then would invoice the township in the 2025 fiscal year. So I've given a few documents with the agenda for consideration. One is the grant announcement, and then secondly, some excerpts from that bridge inspection report. There is some time on this. I thought it might be a good idea to get it in front of the commissioners this evening for any general discussion or questions you might have. And if you're interested in moving forward with the grant application, we can present this back to the Board of Commissioners for formal authorization at the June 23rd workshop. Thank you.
So no action required tonight?
Correct.
Does anybody have any comments or questions on the bridge bundling program or this bridge in particular?
I just want to clarify, if you know, Alex, whether we had some discussion about this, and it wasn't clear to me whether you were, there was a report done that did not recommend weight limits on the bridge. And then there was a subsequent inspection, so I'm wondering if that subsequent inspection would change that recommendation.
To the best of my knowledge, I don't think there is any required weight restriction or recommended at this time. I can certainly double check with our bridge inspectors to see if that's the case for sure, but I didn't see anything recommending or requiring a weight restriction.
Okay. Yeah, from what we reviewed, prior to the meeting was sent to us, my understanding was there wasn't. So I think that's kind of a critical question in terms of, how serious this is and how immediately we need to take care of it.
Correct, and I agree. As Manager Probolka stated, it's not of any concern to public health and safety. It's just a bridge that's undergoing deterioration. So I think it was built in the 80s, so it's getting up there in age. So I can certainly follow up with our bridge team and double check that there is no recommendation for weight restrictions, but it's my understanding there is not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, as long as it doesn't get to that point where, you know, we have to weight restrict to the point where emergency vehicles can't traverse.
I can be prepared with a more thorough update based on the May inspection that was done by Dan Long with HRG for the June 23rd workshop.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Commissioner comments. Anybody wish to comment tonight?
Mr. President.
Sir.
Just briefly, just to touch on something Commissioner Pine brought up about in his school board report. I just wanted to do two things. Number one, thank the Thomas Holtzman PTO for hosting a great movie night last Friday. They played Sing 2, and it was really fun. There were about 75 people there, and volunteers, and it was wonderful. It was in the grassy area near the playground at Holtzman Elementary, and really it was a great time. So I wanted to say thank you for that, and also congratulate the graduates of the class of 2022 from Susquehanna Township High School. You know, this is a special place. You know, we always say diversity is our strength, but I think it means more than that here, and I'll just explain. You know, when I graduated some years ago, our principal, Mark Gallowitz, would give a speech at commencement, and he would articulate how fortunate we were as graduates to be from this place and to be educated here at Susquehanna Township High School. And I think that takes on even greater meaning today and even greater importance today, because there are 20-some languages spoken in our high school by students in our high school. We have families from all over the world that have chosen to settle here in Susquehanna Township. And what does that mean for our graduates? It means when they go to school here, they can go anywhere in the world, nearly, and be comfortable with the people in that place. And that is a really unique and special thing. And I think, you know, when we say diversity is our strength, that's what we mean. It means not only are our kids getting an academic education, but they're getting an amazing social education about what it's like to encounter people from different cultures, different religions, different races, different ethnic groups, you name it. And I just think that's incredibly valuable, and I love the fact that they can do that here in Susquehanna Township. So again, congratulations to all the graduates, and I'm so happy that you know, another successful school year has taken place. You know, it's in the wake of COVID, and as we continue to navigate it, just want to commend the staff, the administration, the school board, you know, the teachers, the parents, and the students. You know, these have been some challenging years, but we got through another one. So congratulations to the graduates, and you know, I wish them all well, and wish great things for each and every one of them. That concludes my comments, Mr. President.
Well put. To serve with love. I saw that movie. Anybody else have any comments? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Ooh, that was close. Definitely angle first. I'm giving this one to Fred. Two Freds. Second. All right. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're out of here.